Welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Football with Bengal, Jim, and friends. Tuesday night edition here. With me, everybody's good friends, mine and yours, James and Jamie. And guys, very big night tonight, guys.
It's exciting for sure. I think there was millions of people at the watch party on Sunday wondering where Jamie was, his unofficial fan club. Maybe just keep Jamie away, just like he's like the mysterious man that only exists in Canada.
People were giving him like, hey, Jim and James, can you give him these stickers and pins and can you mail them to him? Like $2 worth of stickers and pins is going to cost $30 to ship it to Canada.
Things we do for you, Jamie. Things we do for you.
I love you guys.
But it was good. We appreciate everyone that came out on Sunday. I'm not even going to broach the game right now, but appreciate everyone that came out for two great charities. Don't have the official totals yet, but a lot of money was raised. Okay, you can do that in a second.
We just got it, James. Just got the update. We almost hit almost $3,000. Now remember, there was very high winds up in the Mason, the Cincinnati area Sunday, so it kind of prevented us a big crowd going out into the parking lot. But approximately 80 people showed up. $3,000 raised for the Ken Anderson Alliance and the Green Beret Foundation at 16 lots this Sunday. Great job. We appreciate everybody. And let me tell you, these two charities, extremely appreciative of everybody who pitched in, whether you were there or not. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It was a fun event. Thank you to Dell and all the crew at 16 lots. Beer was cold. Beer was good. The pizza was good. I think everybody had a good time. And going back to those charities, the door prizes or the raffle prizes were awesome. Everything from the Kenny Anderson Population 1 Fungo Pop to the prints that we had, to the Boomer jersey, to the rare bourbon. Congratulations to Craig who won that. A lot of cool prizes, and at the end of the day, it went to a good cause. So that was fun.
Laura, that's funny. He does. You know what? That's exactly what we're doing, Laura. That's good to get it cut out of
extra large size box.
Yep. Hey, one more thing, Jamie. There's a picture. I just want to give shout out to an artist, a local artist here in Cincinnati, who did an original on 12 prints. Paul Brown and Warren McVeigh from 1968. Just a great artist here in Cincinnati, Hollis Drunk. I went and picked this up, and we're giving away one on our social media platform. But he works up in Fairfield. I think it's Heirloom Framing in Fairfield area. But he has a lot of other great Bengal stuff there, as you can see in that picture there, not just that Warren McVeigh and Paul Brown print.
And even Sinatra's dead. Look at that Frank Sinatra down there.
Yeah, so the guy is very talented, very good guy. So get up and see him up there. But that print, that Paul Brown, Warren McVeigh print, I'm getting framed here tomorrow. I'm excited about getting that on the wall.
Nice.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right. We don't have anything Canadian here for Jamie today. I was going to see if James could do it.
I've got nothing. Nothing.
All right,
nothing.
we're gonna skip the Canadian trivia and everything here. So guys,
anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yep. So guys, we have a very special guest today in the waiting room. This is the first time we've had a lot of the OGs, as we call them, from the 70s and 80s and even 90s, but we've got a Paul Brown draft pick out of the 12th round. We have got Bob Trumpy in the waiting room right now. So we're excited to have Bob, and his grandson, Jackson, is helping him with the laptop and everything. So guys, not a lot on the agenda. We got Bob, and we're going to have a question of the week towards the end of the show. Guys, anything else to thank? Anybody else to thank here real quick? Houday Nation, I think we want to give a shout out to, James.
Yeah, definitely welcome our friends from the Houday Nation, as always, for joining us. If you haven't checked out their Facebook page, definitely invite you to do that. A lot of great content, and we'll touch on this probably towards the end of the show. But disappointing game Sunday in Pittsburgh. I know for Jimmy and I, we're even more disappointed. Our buddy Tony the Tiger and Caleb and a couple other friends were supposed to make the trip to Washington this weekend. I know that was one of the stadiums that I needed to cross off the bucket list. After the tickets went on sale, like 30 minutes later, they all of a sudden announced no fans in the stands. So we had our plane tickets, we had our hotel, we had everything booked, and we're looking forward to the trip to the nation's capital. I think I sent Tony and Jimmy a text. 66 and sunny there all weekend would have been a great weekend, just to throw a little more salt into the wound. But won't be there, so we'll stay home, stay safe, and cheer them on from the wherever we watch it from on Sunday.
Well, before we bring on Bob, this is a pretty lengthy introduction, guys, and I don't want to assume that all of our viewers right now know who Bob Trumpy is and know the history. We've had a lot of great Cincinnati football legends on, and there may not be anybody greater as a Cincinnati football legend than Bob Trumpy. Drafted in 1968 out of the 12th round by Paul Brown. Paul Brown made this pick. Played for the Bengals from 1968 to 1977. He played in the old AFL from 68 to 69. Was both of those years with an AFL All-Star. And in 1970 and 70, then he went to the NFL, the merger in the NFL and the AFL, and he was a two-time Pro Bowler in the NFL. He has all kinds of Bengal records, guys. And let's just talk about his records as a tight end. This may be the greatest tight end to ever put on a Bengals uniform. He's number one in average catch yards per catch at over 15 yards per catch. Number one with 35 touchdowns. The longest touchdown by a tight end at 80 yards. Single season record at 22.6 average per catch. First tight end to have 3 touchdowns in a game. That game was crazy. We'll talk about that game here in a little bit. Just an outstanding career, an absolute Bengal legend. But after he played football in 1977, after that was his last year in Cincinnati. In 1978, he started his broadcasting career. This guy called Monday Night Football games. He called 2 Super Bowls, PGA events, the Olympics. Just unbelievable the talent this guy has. 2014, he was named the Pete Rozelle Radio TV Award given out by Pro Football Hall of Fame for lifetime achievement in broadcasting. Guys, it is our pleasure to introduce a living Cincinnati football legend, Bob Trumpy.
How's that for an intro?
And with that, we get the blackout. Let me see if I got a text from his grandson here.
There we go.
We got him.
Bob, can you hear us?
Thank you.
Hey, welcome to the show, bud. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an introduction that I'll not shy away from, and thank you very much for it. But there's a downside. Let me quickly tell you, I was drafted by Paul Brown in 1968, no question whatsoever. I was the 12th round pick. I come to training camp. I meet the other draft choices, and one of them was Jesse Phillips. He was drafted as a defensive back, eventually played offense for us. But I learned that Jesse Phillips was physically in the Michigan State prison when they drafted him in the fourth round. I was drafted 8 rounds later.
So, Bob, that's a great story. I guarantee. So already we're not even 2 minutes into the show with Bob, and he's dropping knowledge that I guarantee you most Bengal fans didn't know about Jess Phillips. That's a great story, Bob. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead.
I had, as long as you're interested in stories, I had great fortune before I was drafted. I didn't find out until a couple of 3 years into the league who, in fact, picked me. And it was Local Sal who had my name in a spiral notebook. But when I was drafted, I was collecting bills in Southern California, and my wife called and told me I'd been drafted by the Bengals. And I knew I needed to get a construction job, and I did out in the San Fernando Valley. And one day, driving home from work, I drove by San Fernando Valley State Teachers College. I think it's called Cal State Northridge now. And I saw some guys out there throwing a football around. And I thought, well, I got to get in shape. Maybe I'll stop tomorrow. I did. And I had to walk about, 60, 70 yards before I got to who was there. And as I approached them, I see this great big bag of footballs with a Green Bay G on the side of it, the Green Bay Packers G. And the guy runs in the practice was none other than Bart Starr's backup, Zeke Bratkowski. He lived in Sherman Oaks, which is right down the road from where I live. And that was early March. And from March until the end of June, we came to training camp July 1st. We worked out 6 days a week. I ran the Green Bay Packers patterns. And Zeke obviously liked me. I caught the Duke. The AFL didn't have the Duke. The NFL had the Duke. But he said to me the last day before we were going to adjourn, he said, look, you've done me a great service. We like big patterns, big receivers in Green Bay. And at the time they had, I think Mark Fleming was a tight end, but they had Boyd Dowler and Max McGee, two very big outside receivers. And he said, I'm going to tell our scouts that if your name shows up on the waiver wire, we should give this kid a shot because you're running our patterns for Green Bay better than our guys run our patterns for Green Bay. And psychologically, physically, I was in the best shape of my life. Psychologically, I said, wait a minute, what? Zeke Bratkowski, the second string quarterback for Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers, is telling me I can make their team, and I'm going to an expansion team in Cincinnati. Well, I don't know how to describe what that did to me, and more importantly, what it did for me. But I do think that all those practices with me and psychologically what it meant to me, having not had a, I had not played in a year and a half. I was in the Navy. There's no way to put into words what that meant to me and how much it helped me. When I showed up in Cincinnati, I was a rookie, but I had that in the back of my head. Wait a minute, if I can play for the Green Bay Packers, I can certainly play for these guys. So
that's great.
That was the start.
So Bob, we have a couple video clips we want to get to, and not all those things we just read off. You know, one of the stats that your records that you hold for the Cincinnati Bengals. But another thing that a lot of viewers right now don't realize is this clip. So we're gonna, Jamie, if you could play clip number 1, Bob, we'll watch this and we'll talk about it here.
The third period. Denver was soon forced to punt, and Cincinnati wasted no time, jumping to a 10-0 lead on a 58-yard bomb from Stopa to number 84, Bob Trumpy. With 8:50.
So, Bob, that is the first touchdown, receiving touchdown, thrown to you by John Stofa in 1968. And I love watching that clip because you were pretty emotional, pretty excited in scoring that touchdown. Did Paul Brown say anything to you from any
My wife was in the stands. My first son had not been born yet, but she was sitting in the stands with my parents. Damn right I was excited. I mean, I think that was the I'm trying to think. I think that was the second game of the season. The first game was San Diego in San Diego.
Lost.
And then Buffalo was number 2. Yeah. And the first game in San Diego, Ken Herrock started at tight end. I played a few plays. So I didn't know what was going on. Second game, I came in to replace Ken Herrock and caught that touchdown pass, and I started the third game. So that was a very big catch for me.
Yep. So it might not have been that touchdown, but at some point in your career, I know you had a celebration, you spiked. And did Paul Brown say something to you about act like you've been there before at any point in time? That was the one?
Yes. After that touchdown, you saw the excitement on the sideline. And I was excited, absolutely. And Paul Brown said to me, son, act like you've been there before. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I just barely got on the field. I hadn't been there before. So back then in Nippert Stadium, Bill Walsh sat upstairs. He was not down on the sideline. And after Paul said that to me, I thought he'd slap me on the back and congratulate me a little bit. But after he said that to me, there was kind of a sinking of the shoulders. And I go over to the bench, and somebody says, Walsh wants to talk to you on the phone. And okay, fine. So I get on the phone, and he said, what did he say to you? And I said, well, he told me to act like I'd been there. But, Bill, I've never been there before in the NFL, in the AFL, getting paid to catch touchdown passes. I liked it. He said, you did a great job. That was a great catch. Get your shoulders back. Get your spirit up. And so Paul Brown said that.
I thought that was the touchdown. So let's keep going here. Let's go to another clip here. We have a clip, another Bob Trumpy record, Bengal record book here. So let's go and play clip number 2, Jamie.
The Bengals often called upon football's oldest allies, trickery and deception, as quarterback Greg Cook threw one of 3 touchdown passes to Bob Trumpy, number 84. Greg Cook, meanwhile, was operating in a somewhat more precipitous manner. He threw 2 70-yard passes. Bob Trumpy caught one, and Eric Crabtree the other, as the Bengals refused to let up.
So, Bob, this is going to be a tough one, I think. But so in 1969, you guys played the Houston Oilers. You caught 3 touchdowns in that game. Had just a hell of a game. Greg Cook was just dropping dimes all day in 1969. That game wound up being a tie. Do you remember that game at all?
Oh, sure I do. Absolutely. But the thing that jumps out of my mind is anytime I see us playing in the Astrodome was the first time we played there. I usually went out early to warm up. And it's the first time we'd been in the Astrodome as a team. And the first thing I noticed was the surface looks smooth, but in fact, it was waves. They just threw carpet on dirt. The second thing was I had some teammates who said, what is that smell? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, come over here. So I walked over with him, and I said, you don't know what that smell is? He said, no. I said, they rodeo in here, and when we're not playing football, they roll up the carpet, and underneath the carpet was dirt. So it was basically a rodeo arena, and you're smelling bull urine and bull crap and all that. I was raised on a farm or in a farming community, so I was very comfortable with the smell. And every time we played down there, there'd be teammates walk out and say, what is that smell? Go ask Trumpy. So, but that 3 touchdown game was special. And there's something very significant, not about the first touchdown, that was triple pass. Anderson to Robinson and then throw it down to me. That's triple pass. But in that game was one of the first times I lined up out wide. The second touchdown that you showed, I beat Ken Houston, and I was flanked out, not in the typical tight end position, way out on the sideline. And I beat Ken Houston, who ended up being a very good friend of mine, and he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a player. But that's when Walsh began to experiment with, could I at 6'6", 225, run wide receiver patterns against safeties. And that's one of the first games we did it in, and we blew them up. And we continued to do that during Greg Cook's year there. And then after he got hurt, we kind of went away from the down the field stuff, but there was more of a West Coast offense, and it was developed right around that time of the franchise's history.
Yeah, that's great. So we're going to play one more clip of you, Bob. And I think this is one of the more memorable touchdowns in your career. 1977 video clip here, Bob. If you could play clip number 3, Jamie.
Bengals pulled out all the stops. The old flea flicker saved the Bengals from playoff extinction 23
So Bob, that 29-yard touchdown on a triple pass to Kenny Anderson, you 29 yards.
Yep.
You guys knocked out the Miami Dolphins out of the playoffs, and you beat them 23-17. That was probably one of your more memorable touchdowns, isn't it?
That was my last touchdown. That was absolutely my last touchdown, and it was on triple pass. And Dick Anderson was the safety, and we tricked him again. But the interesting thing about that touchdown is that we lose the next week to Houston, in Houston, where it smelled like a cow barn or a rodeo, and our season is over, and my career is over. And so I get into broadcasting, and when you start in broadcasting, my first year, I did the Seattle Seahawks. I did the also rans. As you're working your way up, you don't go to a major portion of the country. And after a couple, 3 years, worked way up, and Miami they were big, they were good. And Don Shula was still the head coach. And I go into my first production meeting with Don Shula in Miami, and producer, director, their PR director, a couple other people. And the first thing, Shula shakes my hand and he said, "Trumpy, you and that damn reverse pass, I can't believe we let you catch that thing." I said, he said, "It was in the rain. It kept us out of the playoffs. I still see that play, and I knew it was coming, and we couldn't stop it." I don't know. Okay, coach, how about your team now? For the next 20 years, I'm telling you, every time I saw Shula, he would start with, "Trumpy, you and that damn reverse pass." He remembered that all 20 years later. So, yeah, that was a very big play. That was in Riverfront Stadium, and that was my last touchdown. You showed my first. That was my last.
That's awesome. So we're going to go to the questions here in a little bit, but I have a couple more things here. So, Bob, you caught touchdowns from John Stofa, Dewey Warren, Virgil Carter, Ken Anderson, who obviously we all think should be in the Hall of Fame. But I want you to talk about, and I've heard you talk about him many times, I want you to talk about this guy right here. If you can see this picture. This is a very –
see the picture.
Can you see this, Bob?
Yeah, I can see it.
Can you talk about Greg and help a lot of our viewers know who this guy is?
Yeah, when he showed up, Greg instantly. I mean, he went to school at the University of Cincinnati, so we saw him just in highlight films and things like that. But when he showed up in training camp, he was so far superior to the quarterbacks that we had, and John Stofa was a very good friend, and Sam Weiss was a very good friend, but Greg Cook was instantly the best quarterback in camp, instantly. And whatever Bill Walsh came up with, Greg Cook could do, and he did it. He did it in such a way that he just. It just jumped out at you, just in the warm-ups, just in our. We had several drills we had to go through, just the receivers, and Cook wanted to come over and throw to us, and just how he did everything, the way he carried himself. He wasn't arrogant, but he had this. He portrayed this feeling that, if you get open, I'll get it to you. I don't care where it is, or if there's this much room or this much room, I'll get it to you. So we had that confidence, and we go 3-0 to start the 1969 season. And the opponents that we faced, they were not chumps. I mean, it pretty impressive, and everybody was sky high thinking, "What is there anything this kid can't do?" And we had a good running game to go with it. We had a decent defense to go with it. And remember, we got Greg Cook and Bill Berge, in the same draft, and Berge certainly helped our defense immeasurably. And the running game was Paul Robinson, Essex Johnson. Offensive line was decent. Greg didn't need a lot of protection. He moved around, and at 6'5", he could see over everybody. So he and I made a lot of connections because he could find me. And then he gets hurt against Kansas City, and he came back. I think he played 11 games in that 1969 season, but he had one surgery, and then he had a second surgery, and then he had a third surgery in 1970. And we go to training camp in 1970, and of course everybody's saying, "Greg, how are you?" "Good, good." "You've been working out?" "Yeah, yeah, my shoulder feels good." So when training camp starts, we're thinking, okay, we got our quarterback back. And the first day at camp, he warmed up okay, and we went to the first drill, which was 7-on-7, receivers, running backs versus linebackers, and defensive backs. And Greg drops back and turns to throw one to Chip Myers over on the sideline, a deep one, and the ball sailed over Chip Myers' head, 20 feet over his head. And Greg grabbed his helmet by the face mask and threw it down with his left hand, threw it down, and walked off the field. And I don't know how many other surgeries he underwent, but he never took the field again for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Walsh gave him a chance a couple of years later out in San Francisco, but he never recovered from that shoulder injury. I don't know what we would have been had he stayed our quarterback. But
yeah, just a sad story, man. Just man. So everybody says the same thing, man. What could have been? Maybe the biggest what could have been in Cincinnati Bengal history if he stayed healthy, Bob. So we're going to go to a question real quick, Bob, from one of our viewers. Then we're going to get back on a couple of videos here. So Jamie, I think you have a question.
Yeah, we got a few questions, but I like this one for the first one. Eric asks, no problem. So Eric asks, obviously the game has changed or evolved over the years, but what is one thing you'd like to change about today's game as opposed to how it used to be played?
We practice standing for the national anthem every year around with the head coach. He lined us up. This is the way you stand for the national anthem. Well, what I like to see change, every one of them stand for the national anthem.
Fair enough.
Good. So let's we're going to talk about a recent passing in the Bengal family, Bob, with Essex Johnson. We're going to show a video here. There's no sound to this video, Bob. So could you share any stories as this video is playing about Essex Johnson, a great Bengal running back in Bengal history? So Bob, tell our viewers about Essex.
Well, Es was our speed back, and he was a wonderful receiver. But look at that acceleration around the corner. There were several times when I saw Essex carrying the ball, and it appeared to me that his one shoulder was about 18 inches off the ground, and he was still striding around the corner. He was very easy to block for, although that's a weak side sweep. That's Ernie Wright leading him, but he was terrific to be around. He had one weakness, and that weakness was he used to sneak into the training room. Let's see what else is going to do here. Receiver out of the backfield, halfback circle, and he could outrun anybody in the league at that particular time. This is in the early 70s. He could absolutely motor like nobody could motor. And when he blew his knee out against Miami in a playoff game, man, it hurt us badly. It took away the speed threat of our running game, changed everything. He was wonderful, but his weakness was he would sneak into the training room, and our trainer had a TV on top of the refrigerator, and Essex was hooked on All My Children, the soap opera. and other players were breaking for lunch. Paul Robbins said, "Yes, let's go." "No, go ahead. Bring me back such and such." And he'd watch my eye. He'd watch the soap opera like this. He had his head facing this way, and he was watching out of the corner of his eye. We used to make great fun of him for watching All My Children. Great player. Sorry to see you go. Wonderful player.
Well, I tell you what, Bob, I got a few more. We got a bunch of questions now in the chat area, but we're gonna play a game. We've never done this before on the show, Bob. I've got 5 pictures here, black and white photos of players from the late 60s and early 70s for the Cincinnati Bengals. And just make a quick comment on them. You don't have to elaborate too much, but I'm going to start off with this one right here.
Dave Lewis, excuse me.
Dave Lewis.
He was punter quarterback. What an odd combination.
Yep, punter quarterback.
He lasted a while. Not a great while, but a while.
Yep. So this is funny. You just mentioned this guy's name.
Ken Herrock.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was a starting tight end, right?
Yeah, he was a starting tight end. I think there were two. There were two tight ends from veterans allocation. Ken Herrock being one, and then there were 2 draft choices, me and another kid, and I'm the one that lasted.
That's good stuff.
Herrock ended up working for the Atlanta Falcons for a lot of years.
Didn't know that. All right, we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball.
Al Beauchamp, my favorite player, had absolutely the greatest sense of humor of anybody I ever came across in my life. He was so much fun to be around. He was a wonderful, wonderful player, always had a smile on his face. Everybody needed a teammate like him and Ken Riley.
That's awesome. Awesome.
I don't have the coronavirus.
I was getting ready to ask you. You got the Kona.
No, I'm fine.
Good. All right, got another 2 more.
Howard Fest, University of Texas. We lived in his family, and my wife and I lived in the same apartment complex, and for a while rode to work together. So we were close.
That's good. That's cool. All right, last one.
Bob Johnson, my roommate for 10 years. He lives about 400 yards from me right now. Kids grew up together. My youngest son and his son are best friends, and good roommate for 10 years. We rode to work together every single day for, I think, 8-9 years.
That's great. That is great. So I'm going to ask the last question because I'm hogging everything, but I've been so excited to have you. So I'll ask one more. Then we got a bunch of questions in the chat area. So tell everybody, back in the late 60s and early 70s, there were times you guys played 5, 6, 7 preseason games. What the hell was that like, playing that many preseason games?
Say that again. 5 to what?
You guys played 5 to 7 preseason games in the late 60s and 70s. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was awful. Training camp was 2 months, and they really tried to beat the crap out of us twice a day. We had no days off unless we played a preseason game. It was in Wilmington, so we were separated from our families. Some of us bought houses here. Some of the guys just had apartments, and it was terrible. And Bob Johnson and I would do anything to kill the boredom. We had human billiards games. We had all kinds of stuff to keep us entertained. We could never get over the fact that twice a day we went out there and practiced, and always in the afternoon, our uniforms were wet They would never dry out. And but we did it. And sometimes we had to travel a long way for the preseason games. Hattiesburg, Mississippi. What? We played at Hattiesburg, Mississippi? It's strange things like that. But it's what we had to do, so we did it. Nowadays, the players, they don't even go out in pads, but once a week. And in training camp, they barely touch each other. And I watched training camp with Dave Lapham. He was there in the early years. And he said, you and I could go through this training camp. And we're 60 plus years old. I'm 75. I could go through some of these training camps. But it's changed dramatically because we were expendable. We didn't make a lot of money. They could find somebody else. These guys, if one of these guys gets hurt, it's $50 million down the drain for the franchise. So part of it I get.
Got it. I know we have James. I know you guys have some other questions.
Yeah, Mr. Trumpy, thank you for joining us. You mentioned Bill Walsh. You mentioned Mr. Walsh early, including him commenting on your first touchdown. Seeing what you saw of him as a coach in Cincinnati, did you picture him going on and having the success that he did later in his career?
Yes, absolutely. When Bill Johnson was named the head coach, I think every offensive skill position athlete on the roster called Bill and asked him, don't leave. You got to stay here. The direction we're going is good. And he said, no, I have to leave. Yeah, we expected what Bill Walsh created was going to be great. We didn't know how great. He had to go to other places before he could really prove himself. But I do distinctly remember the first innovation Walsh wanted for our franchise was for me to simply move from the strong side to the other side. Reason being, back then, teams had strong side outside linebackers and weak side outside linebackers. And that's because the strong side guy went to the strength of the offense, which is determined by the tight end. So Walsh says, well, what if we move to the other side? Are they going to flip linebackers? What are they going to do? So we tried it. Paul Brown didn't like it because he said it looked like we didn't know where to line up. But just with a simple move like that, Walsh changed defenses in a week's time. We did it against one team, and I was blocking on a guy that I was bigger than, which was very unusual for me. Normally, the outside linebacker, he may not be as tall as me, but he certainly weighs more than I do. And I had no trouble blocking this weak side linebacker. That guy was generally, the weak side linebacker was there more for coverage and blitz than taking on a tight end. And I could block. And so it was things like that that Walsh started doing. Then moving me around. A couple of the touchdowns you showed, Jim, was single coverage, me on a strong safety. And there weren't many strong safeties in the AFL and the early 70s NFL that could stay with me. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you they were there for another purpose, to tackle, not necessarily to cover a downfield tight end. And I just went where they told me to go, but I could do what they wanted me to do. So we kept doing it. And it was Walsh's idea. We executed it. Greg Cook loved it. I beat an awful lot of safeties. And the net result was Walsh's ideas kept changing defenses all over the AFL and then the early stages of the NFL in the 70s. So we knew what was going to happen. And we were sorry to see him go. I have no complaints about Bill Johnson as Paul Brown's successor. Tiger was a wonderful, wonderful coach. But the innovation in our offense froze when Walsh left. And frankly, we never recovered.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see that. That was evident in the couple videos that we showed. You did have 3-4 steps on the safety or the defenders there on those touchdowns, which was Yeah, which was nice. Let's if you don't mind.
Yeah, James, they were lost out there. They were normally they had a free safety or a weak safety, as they used to be called. They had a linebacker in front of them. But me out there with just them, I could see the fear in their eyes. So could Greg Cook.
Staying on the Bill Walsh thing, is there a particular story you can share with Bill, maybe off the football field, or a funny story, or one of your greatest moments with Mr. Walsh?
Me? About
Yes.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
Well, when the Cincinnati Bengals played the San Francisco 49ers in Michigan, I was kind of helping in the background for the radio broadcast, and was up there all week doing my radio show. And game's over. It was like 45 minutes after the game, and I'm leaving the stadium, and because I had been there as a TV broadcaster, I knew where to go and how to get in and out of the stadium. And I stuck my head in the 49ers locker room door, and Walsh was just coming out, and I'm going to a press conference or whatever, and he grabbed me by the arm. He said, "Come with me." I don't know where he's taking me, but we went into this small office, and he turned around and he looked at me and he says, "I know who you were rooting for in this game." And I said, "How can you say that?" He said, "I know who you were rooting for because you see what we were doing being run by the San Francisco 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals on that field today. I know who you were rooting for." And I said, "All right, I was hoping you succeed." Yes, yes, yes. So we had that special moment forever.
That's great.
Nice.
Jamie, I know we have some stuff from the fans.
Yeah, I do. Bob, a lot of people in the chat are asking if you follow the current Bengals team, and if you do, what's your thoughts on the team right now and into the future?
Well, I've said this before, and I sincerely mean it. What I've seen out of Joe Burrow impresses the hell out of me. Physically, emotionally, psychologically. He's a player that you can build a franchise around, and he's going to last for a number of years. But there is the caveat. I have changed my opinion of this season and the next season, and maybe even a third season for this team and this franchise and that player, Joe Burrow. And it is more important for me that Joe Burrow leaves the field under his own power, with no slings on his shoulder, with no casts on his wrist, not limping. They have got to keep that kid healthy, so at least he can perform at 100% in the next several years. So I don't care if they win another game. Yes, it's nice if they do. I don't want them to look as bad as they did against Pittsburgh the other night, but I'm more interested in protecting Joe Burrow's physical ability. And part of that is, I'm sure you guys saw the documentary on Alex Smith's leg, and that scares the hell out of me. And we had a teammate, Ken Dyer, who broke his neck, a defensive back hit by John Brockington, not a quarterback. But I also happened to broadcast Joe Theismann's broken leg. So I want Joe Burrow to be healthy, to stay healthy, and I want him protected at all costs. And that's the paradigm I'm looking for.
I think we can all agree with that for sure. So we had a gentleman in the chat bring up a story I'm sure you remember, because this is something I think would stick with you for the rest of your life. But maybe talk about this for the people who don't know. I'm just hearing about this for the first time as well, Bob. But on your radio show, you were credited with saving a woman's life who called in live and was talked about ending her life, and you stayed on the air with her, I think, for 2 hours or so, talking to her. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, well, I don't remember when it was, but the lady called the radio station and she talked to my producer, Doug Kidd, and there's glass between the two of us. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and he's running all the equipment, and I'm just getting ready to talk. And he said, there's some lady on the phone and I don't know what to do with her. And I said, well, why can't you hang up on her? And he said, well, I put her on hold. She's trying desperately to talk to you. And I said, well, what does she want before the show starts? And this is, I don't know, 6-8 minutes before the show starts. I thought maybe she knew me, I knew her. So I said, well, put her through. I'll listen to what she has to say. And honest to God, I don't remember anything after that. The things that I do remember is that, one, my wife showed up from where we lived to downtown Cincinnati and was looking at me through the windows. Two, there were, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 Cincinnati police officers in the other room. And as somebody kept handing me notes, and part of the note was, don't put her on hold, don't hang up on her. Don't put her on hold, don't hang up on her. You're doing fine. They kept doing, somebody would sneak in and give me a note. And then I didn't know that 30 seconds had gone by, and then 2 minutes went by, and then 2 hours went by. And I just kept talking. I didn't even know if we were on the air. And Doug Kidd, the producer, said, I really don't know what to do here. We didn't run any commercials. We didn't run any news. And we identified who she was, and her son got on the phone, and we got her saved, and end of story. I don't remember what I said. I honestly don't. And when it was over and done with, I think there was still time left on the program, but I got up and left. Drove home with my wife and was very upset that this woman had put me in that spot. And the next day, I told somebody at the radio station, and they called the Cincinnati police, and they sent over a counselor for me because I was feeling, I don't remember what I was feeling, but I was not feeling right. I really didn't want to go on the air that night. But the gentleman, there's more than one of them, but the people that came over said, look, we're in this business. Your reaction is a normal reaction. She dumped all of her trash on you. You got through to her. It's all right. You're going to be okay. And then I went to the manager of the station and I said, make sure that never happens again. that we get that lady to a crisis counselor, not some ex-football player. We were fortunate this time. I don't want to be unfortunate ever in that situation again. So,
wow.
What a story. We'll get back to football. It's just emotional just hearing about it from this end. And like Jamie, that's the first time I heard that. So I can't imagine what you were going through in the heat of the moment per se. But we started off the show. Jimmy talked about you being the 12th round pick by Paul Brown, who was our number 1 inductee into the non-existent Bengals Ring of Honor. Let's talk about Paul Brown, if you would, for a minute, Bob. Maybe one of your fondest moments with Paul, or a funny moment that you had with him, something that you can share with the people watching.
Yeah, well, my roommate, Bob Johnson, and I discussed Paul Brown a lot. As players, I think we understood that him being the coach that he was the only guy that that could come here in Cincinnati and start a franchise and have it succeed. Paul Brown was the only guy that could do that. He created us the same way he created the Cleveland Browns from the old American Football Conference. In fact, he used to bring out old manila folders and open it up, and he judged our progress against the Browns' progress back in the 50s. And then we're a step ahead, we're a step behind. And they were his measuring stick for us. We understood that. And it was Paul Brown's way, or, you know, he used to say, go find your life's work. We don't need you. I don't need you. And the thing he repeated most to us was, I control everything. Everything. I own the most stock. I make every decision for this franchise. After what happened to him in Cleveland, I don't blame him for that whatsoever. He told us to live well. He told us that we were a select few. He told us that we would be treated fairly. That's all he would guarantee. You'll be treated fairly. And I mean, he was my head coach for 8 years. He was the general manager when I retired. And after I retired, I went into the broadcasting business. We had blow-ups. We had arguments. We had confrontations. I didn't back down, neither did he. And I was sorry to see him pass away. And he certainly changed my life for the better. And what, are we running out of battery? Anyway, he certainly changed my life. And I mean, on the plus side, let me give you a personal. My engineer is doing something here. Oh,
he's doing a heck of a job. You got to give him a big bonus tonight, Bob. He's doing a heck of a job.
I think we were losing some power. There used to be a golf tournament run by a very good friend of Paul Brown's in Dayton, Ohio. The guy's name was Cy Lauder. He was a very successful businessman. And one day I got a call from Paul Brown's secretary that Paul wanted to talk to me. Well, at the time, I was still a player and in his good graces. But when you got a call from Paul in the middle of the off season, it was generally you were either going to Buffalo or Green Bay. And at that time in my career, you did not want to go to either Buffalo or Green Bay. In fact, he invited me to the Bogey Busters golf tournament to play as his guest. And I said, oh, sure, absolutely, love to. I go up there. Guess who I'm paired with? Jesse Owens. I had 2 days as Jesse Owens as my partner in that golf tournament. And Paul would never admit it, but I guarantee you that Paul Brown, he set that up, that I would play with Jesse Owens. And look, I'm from a farming community in Illinois, and I ran track in high school, and I played basketball. And when I saw I was playing with Jesse Owens, I almost puked. But Jesse and I at the time both smoked. And so we had an instant connection while we were hiding behind trees, so our coach or somebody else doesn't see us smoking. But I got to spend 2 whole rounds of golf and cocktails and dinner afterwards with Jesse Owens, and it's still, barring my marriage and my kid's birth, the highlight of my life.
Wow.
That was awesome. Supplied by Paul Brown.
That's awesome. Bob, we appreciate your time. We're going to go one more question from the audience, and I'll close with one last question, and we'll let you go. But, man, this has been a lot of fun, Bob. I just want to let you know.
Sure.
So, yeah, Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. Joe Cook, one of our longtime viewers here, wants to know, what is your most memorable moment of your career? Kind of a loaded question, but
yeah. Well, you saw both of them. There's two. The first one I caught and the last one I caught. Touchdowns. I mean, yes, absolutely. You got them both on tape, and I was excited. I think you saw certainly the first one when Paul said, "Act like you've been there." 10 years later, I catch one, and Don Shula never forgot it. And so those are, I mean, that's good bookends right there, 10 years apart.
Yeah.
Easy question to answer.
If I can chime in, then I'll put a spin on it. What about from the broadcasting side, Bob? What's their greatest memory from that?
I have lots of memories, worked with an awful lot of great people. A lot of people have asked me, what's the best thing that you broadcast? And I always say it's the Ryder Cup. Did 3 of them. And I knew I was rented. I originally got the job because apparently somebody up in New York thought I had a good voice for golf. And they knew I played. I hacked it around. But the Ryder Cup was without question the most exciting thing I had ever broadcast. The Super Bowls, I did 4 blowouts, 2 on television with Dick Enberg, Dallas, Buffalo, both times. We were loaded with information. It was useless after the first quarter and a half for both games. I did 2 on radio with Don Criqui. It was Denver Giants and Chicago, New England. Blowouts at halftime of both games. So, you know, you hope that the memories for those big games will be forever etched in your mind. They were a disaster. They were no good. Buffalo, awful. Denver with John Elway couldn't hold a candle to the Giants. And the Bears, I mean, they beat up New England. Don Criqui and I had their matchup in the regular season, and New England crossed the 50-yard line once the entire game. And in the lead up to the Super Bowl, somebody asked me about, you like New England's chances? And I said, no, I don't like New England's chances at all. In fact, I'm trying to figure out how they're going to score anything. Well, being a former AFC player, I get to New Orleans, and the first guy I see is Steve Grogan. And he says, thanks. I said, wait a minute, Grogan, I did your game in Chicago during the regular season. I know what these guys got on you. Tell me you got it fixed. And it was a blowout. So,
yep, I remember that. So, Bob, we
that's
have
the game where that's the game where the refrigerator scored and Walter Payton didn't. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Yep, I remember that. So, maybe the most important question of the night, Bob, and you're obviously brutally honest, and that's why people love you. You share what's on your mind. Who do you dislike more? The city up north, Cleveland, or the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Steelers.
Why?
No question.
Tell us why.
Primarily because of my playing career and broadcast career, Cleveland Municipal Stadium was my favorite place to play other than Cincinnati. Why? Because the visitors' locker room in Cleveland Municipal Stadium is back behind the stands, and you take a tunnel down and you come out, and the visitors' dugout of Cleveland Municipal Stadium. And at all the times that we played in that stadium against the Browns, I sat on every inch of that dugout bench, knowing that Ruth sat there, knowing that Al Kaline sat there, knowing that all the great players in the American League sat on that bench. And an early part of my career, winning wasn't that important to us. Paul Brown was building us as a team. Playing well was important, but winning was not as important. And to me, experiencing all these stadiums that I'd watched as a kid, it was the most important thing for me. And sitting where Babe Ruth sat at some point meant the world to me. So the Steelers, they got nothing for me.
All right, Bob, we'll close it out. I do want to zoom in on this if everybody can see this. So, look, Bob, look at your hair. Man. Look at your hair. You were selling like meat for partridge. What were you doing in this, man?
Well, back then we used to go out for a speaking engagement for $25. So if they want to take my picture and put it on a card, I don't know that we got anything for being on that card.
I like the hair, Bob. It looks good. Bob,
that was my elder period.
Yeah.
Who do I look like now? I look like Jamie.
Yes, you do look like Jamie. Bob, Trumpy, and Jamie twins. Well, Bob, hey, we're gonna close it. We just want to let you know we have hundreds of folks watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter combined. I just need you to understand, Bob. People tonight, I think I heard most all these stories before. I've been around a little longer than most of these guys, Bob. But a lot of folks viewing right now have never heard these stories before. And we appreciate you sharing these stories with us. You're a Cincinnati football legend. You're an extremely important part of Cincinnati football history, Bob. And we appreciate you being with us tonight, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, well, Cincinnati treated me and my family very nice. I've lived here since 1972. The house I'm in right now, I've been in for 30 years. So I chose to stay here. My wife is from Southern California. I'm from Illinois. We chose Cincinnati to be our residence for the rest of our life. So they treated us nicely, and we love living here.
Yep, we appreciate. Tell the family we said.
I must tell you, I love to see this. I didn't know anything about this until grandson Jack told me about you guys, and I still don't know where you do all the clips. But
Bob, I have some more.
Is.
I have some more clips I'm going to send to Jackson. Okay, but I do want to give a shout out to your grandson, Jackson. We thank you so much because there's no way in hell Grandpa could have got on here without you.
He did a junior at the University of Cincinnati, and all I had to do was buy him dinner tonight, and he came out and served as the engineer. He knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Bob, we appreciate it. Thanks again, buddy.
You.
Appreciate
it. Thank you.
See you, buddy.
Good time. Take care.
Bye.
Awesome.
Man, oh man. That's a legend, right? Paul Brown drafted him. I mean, that just is crazy. That's just crazy we had him on.
And the $25 he got from Partridge was twice as much as we paid him tonight. So heck of a deal.
It was funny. I was talking to his grandson. I knew he graduated from Sycamore, and he's the same age as my third kid. So I knew he had to be a junior or senior in college. And I was talking to him today. And I was like, buddy, he was working hard to make sure this worked tonight. So he did a hell of a job. So I asked him, I was like, Jackson, how old are you, man? I need to know. He's like 21. I was like, okay, so I can get him a case of beer and not be in trouble. So
case of 16 lots headed his way.
That's right. That's right.
Bob's got that radio voice though, eh?
Like, he does, man. He does.
Yeah, that's all.
For sure.
Do we want to have time for the question of the week?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Yep.
Let's do the question of the week. I know a lot of people watching this show. I mean, this is obviously for the fans, by the fans, and it's not always good news, but let's talk about the game on Sunday, guys. Obviously didn't go the way any of us were hoping. Question of the week. Who were you most disappointed in last week on Sunday? Bengals versus Steelers. Jimmy, you want to go first?
No, Jimmy's going to put the positive spin on it. You and I have to.
And you are the negative one.
I'm gonna go a little bit of shocking news, but then I do got to finish with some positive here, guys.
Of course.
Coming off a bye, look, man, we were down a couple. We only had like 3 DBs playing. We had to take a guy off the practice squad who didn't look very good. I guess, and then they had to shuffle around the offensive line, and that's going to be my positive, and I'll finish with that one. But I think that what disappointed me is that coming off a bye week, man, I expected to. I wanted to feel a little bit more prepared. Coming off a bye week, going into the Pittsburgh game, I didn't feel that. Now, with that being said, when you're down 3 coaches from COVID, you're down to like 3 starting defensive backs. You had pulling guys off the street to play DB basically. The positive in my mind on this, guys, is there's a couple guys on that offensive line. I think Akeem played well, and I think Spain, the guy we just picked up from Buffalo, the guy has never played tackle in his life. Yeah. He was practicing at guard all week until all this stuff started. They started shuffling things around. He played pretty damn well. And if you've seen Watt was getting in his face, and he got back in Watt's face, and Watt backed down off of him. I like his attitude, guys. I don't know if he's here long term, but from what I saw, man, I was impressed with the way Spain played on that offensive line. I mean, just crazy stuff the coaching staff had to go through in the team this week.
Jamie?
Honestly, who was I most disappointed in? I'm going to say Zach Taylor. I do not like seeing Joe Burrow limping, and I know Joe Burrow, I know he always, in the press conferences after, he always takes it on himself. We lost because I sucked. But when you're down, like the game's at a reach, you got the franchise quarterback in there. I understand giving him reps is important, but if he shows any sign of injury, I just don't. I think you put Finley in there for the mop-up duty, and you don't risk Joe Burrow's health. And I mean, I get why they leave him in, but I'm just disappointed that he stayed in the game. Especially when it was really obvious that he lost the mobility there in the second half. I don't know if it's affecting his throwing or whatever. I know the wind was brutal, but he was obviously not feeling 100%. So I think that's what I was most disappointed about.
And that wind did look brutal. It, as Jimmy alluded to earlier, even down in Cincy, it was windy. We saw the Cleveland game was delayed because of weather, and you could just see the referee's pants in the Pittsburgh game just whipping in the wind, and that was certainly brutal. My disappointment of the week, and this isn't why we lost the game, but it looks like they made a conscious effort, especially early, to make AJ Green part of the game plan, try to get him the ball early, and it didn't happen. I think unfortunately we're seeing the decline of AJ, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whatever it is. Again, AJ's not why we lost the game, but it definitely seemed like we tried to get him involved early, and there wasn't much there. But we'll put that behind us. As I said earlier, looking forward to going to Washington. I think you look at the next couple games, we've got teams that have worse records than us. These on paper should be wins that we should get. We'll see. Certainly we're all disappointed after last week, but if you look at Washington, look what they've done. Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, going to look like be leading Washington this week. Hopefully we can put a 3 in that first column and kind of get things back on track. Jamie?
Yeah, so let's go through the chat here. A couple people here. Anthony Brooks says, Zach, Jason, Alex, Erickson killing momentum right off the bat. That drop was.
Alex, you have one job.
Man,
one job. It's okay.
On the team, right? Special team.
And you know what? He's been
reliable.
That much. Yeah, that wasn't like that. That was one of his traits throughout his career. He usually has pretty solid hands. Yeah, just a bad day. And props to the defense. They held him to a field goal after that short field that we gave Pittsburgh, but you can't afford those mistakes against an undefeated 8-0 team.
Yeah, we definitely went into the second half with a chance to come back, but then that quickly disappeared. Jennifer says, agrees with you, James. Hate to say it, AJ Green's disappointing, but yeah, T is amazing.
T looks great.
T is AJ Green, right? Before the decline, unfortunately.
Even it was, T had great numbers, but, T had a fumble. He's a rookie. He's going to make some mistakes, but I think you look at the bright side for what he's going to bring to us in the future. I think, hopefully he'll be that replacement for AJ. And, another thing that people forget about is how much we're paying AJ this year. What can we do with that money next year? Or what could we have done with that money this year? So.
Chris, where should I start? I love my team, but it looked horrible. Watched the press conference with Burrow after the game. He took a lot of the blame. Was worried to see Burrow limping. That's the one thing. Burrow can't keep taking the blame. I understand that's a leadership thing, but there's a lot of blame to go around. Bengal Bobby, Burrow shouldn't have been on the field in the fourth quarter. Craig says, how did no one try to catch him as he's falling towards the bench? Anthony agrees with me. Bengal Bobby, we need to pay Bates.
Stud.
We got some time. I think we're gonna have to pay Sam Hubbard at the same time. I think we got 2 more years before that.
It was good to see Sam back too.
Yeah, that was good.
Perspective on AJ. Hollis says AJ got shafted. He's getting targets when the wind was crazy.
You know what? Let's talk about that, because he didn't start out the year well. The last 3 games, I think it's 18 catches, 298 yards. The last 3 games. That's pretty solid production. Just when I thought it seemed like those games he was getting better, and then we had this drop off. I think I agree with Hollis on this, man. I think that crazy ass win there did affect some things. We'll see what happens here. If AJ does come back next year, guys, it's going to have to be a big pay cut. I mean, we can't pay him $18 million a year, but we'll see. I think we got a lot of time left. I don't want to fall off the AJ Green train here, because he had been making a huge improvement, getting back in the groove, and that was a crazy game, man. Nothing went right for anybody on that team at the end of the day. But with that being said, we got to get our heads back in the right spot. 9-6-1 starts in Washington this week, guys. And guys, we have some very winnable games coming up here, no lie. So let's get it rolling this week. We have to. So
I want to come back on here next week if we lose to Washington. Like that.
We want some Craig Johnson victory cigars, Dan.
Yes. He's got like stacks of cigars. He thought he'd be giving away like 16 of them this year, but
we're going to have to all go to his house and smoke them all then. And Sorrel.
Yep. Hey, I want to give a shout out closing here, guys. Thanks so much for everybody for viewing. I was very excited. I hope you guys were excited as I was to have Bob Trumpy on. I know a lot of folks never got to see him play, but I tell you, and I never got to see him play, but this guy's a legend. And he was a lot of fun. The stories that this guy has in his head is just amazing. So shout out to everybody for being part of this. Thanks again to Bob Trumpy and his grandson Jackson. Another shout out to Houday Nation. A bunch of good folks in there that we partner with. And one more comment also about the fundraiser that we had, guys. I just want to thank everybody. Almost $3,000 in there for 2 great foundations, Green Beret Foundation, Ken Anderson Alliance. These guys were super appreciative. Dell and 16 Lot for hosting and did an outstanding job. That Ken Anderson pizza was delicious, guys. Just take our word, Jamie. The beer was cold. The pizza was great, brother. Wish you were with us. Yeah. and we appreciate everybody that was donating, trying to buy raffle tickets online. I think we had several people that actually bought tickets on social media that won some of those prizes, guys.
The gentleman that won the Fungo Pop was actually an online, somebody that submitted it. Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see.
So, guys, we will see everybody next week. Here's to a victory in Washington. Thanks, everybody, for viewing. We appreciate your participation, guys. Thanks again, and Houday.
Houday.
Stay safe.